continued appreciation to State Representative Christine Drazen. I've mentioned in the past how she's helped when I called her, for example, on the quiet zone where we were having some communication problems with the Oregon Department of Transportation, and it is stunning to see the rapidity that state officials get back when the minority leader of the House contacts them. We've had two other cases where she's assisted us. The daycare center that's going to go into the old Canby utility building there behind the Dahlia building. Likewise, was having some communication delays with the state licensing board, and Representative Drazen helped with that. And then just the other day, a business, a restaurant in town that had a small COVID outbreak. I was talking to them about what would help them get back up and going. And what they said is that they don't have access to rapid tests. That the Rite Aid does provide the 2 to 4 day response. But in terms of being able to quickly test all of their staff and get immediate results, they don't have that sort of access. So I talked to Representative Drazen because we do have CARES Act funds going out across the state. The fairgrounds, for example, received a $185,000 grant from it. And I asked her if she didn't think from a public policy standpoint, the ability to provide communities with these rapid tests would in fact be an economic development model to get businesses back into operation. And she really liked that. So she's taking that to the governor's office and going to see if that isn't something where Canby might be a pilot project where a business that does have an outbreak is trying to get its staff back, but do it safely, of having access to these 15-minute rapid tests. So stay tuned. But again, Representative Drazen, you're always there when I pick up the phone, so thank you. The mayor talked a little bit about what sort of year this has been. My history teacher used to tell me that there are centuries where nothing happens, and then there are years where decades happen. And 2020 feels like one of those. Canby Fire Chief Jim Davis and I were reflecting upon the fires today and really trying to look ahead on what could be done to try and reduce our fire exposure. And if we really needed reminding, 2020 showed us what high winds and overhead electric lines can do during a hot, dry summer. And Chief Davis said to me, if you want to limit fire exposure in the future, underground power at every opportunity. We're at a moment where we can decide that. Plans submitted to Clackamas County for the Ivy Street project next year still calls for overhead power lines. Overhead power lines that are going to go past businesses, residential, senior living, schools. I've talked about this in the past. Nothing's happened. Canby Utility, according to the Clackamas County Engineering Office, still has plans to put overhead power lines for the Ivy Street project. I bring it up tonight because we're running out of time. Clackamas County Engineering Department is going to be closing its plan for engineering of the Ivy Street project in 10 days. So what is on paper November 1st will be the items that are going to be installed. If nothing happens between now and then, overhead power lines will go up on Ivy, right over the brand new sidewalks that all of us have been waiting for a long time. Tonight, I'm personally appealing to Dan Murphy, the manager of Canby Utility, to meet with our new city administrator this week in order for us to understand Canby Utility's position on this. I spoke with Scott Archer, our new manager, today, and he agrees that undergrounding utilities make sense, And Dan, he's prepared to meet with you tomorrow to discuss this. We've got one chance, 10 days, to build this for a generation. Time is running out. That concludes my remarks, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Councilor Spoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of items. Number one, Scott, I see that you're listening tonight. I want to welcome you. It's been a pleasure to go through the hiring process with you, and I know that you're going to be a huge asset to this community. And I'm excited to work with you and see how you work with the rest of council, because I know it's going to be all good things for the community. So I think the fact that you're even paying attention tonight should be a good signal to the community that you care, even when you're not getting paid to care. Second, I want to welcome our new police officers and congratulate George Troe, Lieutenant Troe. We appreciate all of you. I think one of the best things that our police department has done in my 4 years here is that we continue to build a police department that mirrors the makeup of our community. And I'm really excited about Lieutenant Troe being the new chief, though it's going to be sad to lose Chief Smith. We can't keep people forever. Lieutenant Troe, you've been a huge anchor in our community already, and I know you're going to do only good things. And I think the new police officers sound like they're going to be a great addition. Next, I want to thank Shannon Ali and Hot Rod DreamWorks for once again having a scarecrow competition and display in our downtown. It's been a particularly challenging year for a lot of businesses and people in our community. And as I was downtown over the last week and a half, seeing the scarecrow displays just brought me so much joy and reminded me of all the things I love about this community. And I will give a nod to the police department. I know that you've called him Tiger King. I think he should be called Crow Exotic, but all of you continue to be more and more creative and bring more life and vibrancy to our downtown. So thank you, Shannon Ali. Thank you, Hot Rod DreamWorks. Thank you, all the sponsors, and thank you, all of the participants. And finally, I want to add to Councilor Parker's comments about undergrounding utilities and the importance of doing it now. This is our one shot at doing it. When my kids walk to Lee School every day, they're lucky to be on the side of the road that has a sidewalk. But as we're building this and shaping it for the coming generations, we have to remember that if we do not underground the utilities now, we actually need to buy more right of way, because the people that use that sidewalk, they're coming from Hope Village, they're coming from the adult center, they're coming from the school. There are varying levels of mobility, and to keep it ADA accessible, undergrounding the utilities is actually a benefit to all of us because it reduces the amount of right of way we need. But additionally, I'll add that Chief Davis, if I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, Councilor Parker, reminded us that the summers are not getting cooler and they're not getting wetter. And if in the coming years there is an incident where there's a fire because we did not underground utilities, they're going to look back on us now and say, why didn't they underground utilities when the opportunity existed? And it will be a failure of us as a council, it'll be a failure of the city, and it'll frankly be a failure of the Canby Utility Board of not making the decision when it could have been made. So this is my appeal as well, that we work together, that CUB work with Scott Archer, that CUB work with the mayor and Tim Dale, and that the correct decision is made in the opportunity when we have it, because we will not get this opportunity again. This is a 50-year opportunity, and we either do it now or it's not done. And I think that our community deserves for it to be done now. So, Mr. Mayor, those are my comments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Councilor Hensley.
Nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you very much. We will move into the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, it went faster than I thought. My apologies. I move that we approve the minutes of the October 7th, 2020 City Council regular meeting.
I'll second.
Motion has been made by Council President Dale and seconded by Councilor Hensley to approve the consent agenda, which include the approval of the minutes of the October 7th, 2020 City Council regular meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That carries 5-0. Next on the agenda is city administrator's business and staff reports.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, Joe.
Perfect. Okay, so yeah, this is Joe Lindsay. And first of all, I would like to echo a few of the comments that were made during liaison reports. The first of which is Scott Archer is listening, and he is doing it on his own time, which is indeed indicative of, let's just call it a real Scott Archer move, because this guy's been doing that recently. He's actually shown up last week to one of our directors meetings where he met most of our management staff, and he was able to actually kind of settle them in with his calm demeanor and his open and approachable manner. And so that was super helpful. He met, he had kind of introductions to our police at Gwen's that same morning. And then this next week, we're planning on doing the same thing where he's going to get some introductions to specifically our finance, transit, library, and HR folks. And then again, he's going to revisit our directors meeting just to hear exactly what's going on and the messages that we're sending to those folks. So he is continuing to impress, I think, with what I would call a zeal to learn everything he can about our organization. And of course, it sounds like he bought some dirt and he's going to have a house made. And so I think he's, not only do we have him on paper signed up and ready to go on November 9th, but it looks like we got him a little early, and I'm really happy because I enjoy working with him. Next up, you'd want to know that on Monday, I'm looking with the county at proposals, and we're scoring them for the Arndt Road extension alternatives and goal exception study. So we're at a phase now where, it's been a long time coming, and there's about 3 or 4 alternatives to the Arndt Road extension, but it's been, higher up on the county's list now. And so we're getting to a point where they're actually spending some money to study it more closely, given current and expected changes like the quiet zone, which I'll mention here in a little bit. But so we're trying to make sure that all those factors are in there when we have engineers actually looking at what might best fit that situation given current conditions. So more on that after we have it. Secondly, and this is maybe just a quick one, but we did receive the Silver Safety Award from the League of Oregon Cities and CIS. They proudly presented it to us. It's only silver, sorry, it's not gold. And the reason it's silver is because we were able to keep our injury frequency rating down to 1.4 for the fiscal year 1920. I'm not sure how we had 1.4 injuries. We have 135 full-time employees, so I'm guessing we had 2 injuries over the year. But that's good, because I think we have a lot of guys doing a lot of things out in various areas of town. You've probably all seen them driving around a bunch. You've seen them working in the streets and working in the park. So, and then of course we have a lot of staff who work in several buildings. And the fact that we're always pretty darn good at making sure that everybody's working safely and smartly is a testament to our risk management. Next up, I will also echo congratulations to your next police chief, Tro. I would say, we all expect great things, but we're getting great things from him. He's super Canby centric. If you read some of the news about him, he's already super involved in many boards. He acts like a chief already, and he's been, he's kind of like the psychological parent of the police force out there right now. So I think they all feel super excited that he's going to be there and fill those big shoes that Chief Smith is leaving empty as he wanders off into hunting and fishing and going into the woods and everything that he likes to do on his free time, because he's finally going to get some. I will mention we have a current open position that was posted yesterday for confidential administrative assistant, and that was open just on Tuesday officially. because of a quick resignation due to some personal medical reasons for the person who held that position. So we'll be looking to fill that ASAP so we can have some confidential administrative assistance. If you guys know of anybody, it is an open position. So posted it yesterday. We're hoping to have it open for at least a few weeks. We have had a little bit of interest shown already. So it's good stuff, but anytime you hire people, you want a pool of people so that we get the best that we can get. So that is open. In the short run, we're looking, because these hiring processes probably take 4 or 5 weeks at the very fastest. We think we've located some help from some other departments. We've talked with some other departments about borrowing people here and there to try to get some of those ministerial tasks at least done, to kind of take the weight off of our administration. I would echo some of the comments that the mayor made about the community response team, the economic development team that met. I just had a couple of specifics that I could help you out with, Mayor, which is the Baker Center that they're looking to make those spec buildings. I just had the specific numbers that were shared at that meeting. There's one building that's 52,000 square feet, another one that's going to be 72,000 square feet, and another one that's going to be 210,000 square feet. So they're hoping to obviously put people in those. And this day and age is great to see that our industrial park is still thriving and people are still investing in Canby. It means a lot, I think, when people are actually real deal making buildings, because I'm sure that they're smarter business people than I am, and they're expecting that they'll fill them up with folks that'll come here and work. So I'm excited about that. The last big 3 items we can maybe break open a little bit. The first of which is Walnut Street extension. So the Walnut Street extension right now, it requires us to amend our TSP, our transportation system plan, so that we can use some SDCs to then continue work on it. And Planning Commission is now going to hear that officially on November 9th, which is Scott Archer's first day. So hopefully close in time to that. If the Planning Commission likes what they see in the amendment, you guys will see it in short order after that. So hopefully by maybe the second meeting in November, or as close in time as we can, you guys will see that and we can amend our TSP and get moving on that. As a second part of that, you know, the Urban Renewal Agency for Canby bought that property at the end of Walnut Street, right there, adjacent to Columbia Distributing. And we've let SWAT practice some of their maneuvering in there a little bit. They're going to have one last practice in there. And then we've worked out between Chief Davis and Jerry. They're coordinating even today or yesterday, but we've gotten bids for asbestos abatement so that when the fire goes in there and they get to practice on that property, that it's safe. So we've agreed to do some asbestos abatement ahead of them going in there, but then they're going to actually do kind of a controlled practice burn. So that will actually be coming up. So that house will then, and some of the outbuildings will also have controlled burns. So they get to practice some of their stuff, and then we'll clean up after that. And then we'll have kind of a gateway to hopefully a new road as all these pieces kind of come into play. Then next up, we have a quiet zoned arch project that today I sent in a second almost identical response. Back in September, late August, the paperwork came in right for us to respond to the alterations for the 3 intersections. And we had that meeting, that first meeting in September, where I was asking you guys about that. And we all signed off on it, or you all signed off on it. And I technically and physically signed off on the response form and said, we don't need to argue with you guys. We actually will do what you say as far as the intersections go. And then there was a 30-day period before they were going to make a final order. And right before that final order was made, the railroad came back and said, actually, we want to tweak just a few little things in those intersections. So they actually then have seemingly agreed to the alterations. And so again, today I signed the form that says we agree to those as well. I had Jerry double check them as well. And they didn't really have hardly any change whatsoever, frankly, but we agree to them again. And so now the next 30-day period starts as of, I think, the 19th. So by November 19th, we should have a final order in hand, which means we can go back out to bid. Not the worst timing, because in the winter time, sometimes there's more availability for people to propose to do the contracting for quiet zones and such. So that's what we're looking at, is at least going out for bid in late November. And hopefully then by the turn of the year, we would have some of that construction going on. So that's where we're at there. I didn't know if you guys wanted to ask any sort of questions about the quiet zone / arch. I know when it goes out to bid, there might be a question about how you guys want to proceed. Currently, the quiet zone and the arch are pooled together. There was some chatter earlier about potentially if those could be separate projects or not. I guess what we could do is at a later date, I could inquire again as we get closer to putting that out to bid. And then finally, the Federal CARES Act funds that were alluded to by Greg Parker. And actually the mayor, because he was talking about the county having some programs, and that Kyle Lang at the Chamber of Commerce was trying to help out certain businesses with those monies as well. Well, our finance director, Julie Blums, went to a webinar just the other day, I think it was yesterday, where they were encouraging cities to get more creative about the way those are spent, and they've gotten more guidance on some of the creative ways in which some of those federal dollars are spent. And they were saying that we have to kind of try to spend them by at least December 30th of this year. And so we are actually starting to look at that really creatively. We want to come back to you. We have to be fast about this. One of the ways in which we can probably use them is to make some profit or nonprofit donations to folks. We know we've located today, Jamie Stickles looking into a lot of these things too. She went to work on it right away today. The Canby Center is already set up for a mechanism to actually receive funds from us, kind of like a pass-through, and then we would be reimbursed. So we can actually donate some money as long as it's going towards people who've been affected negatively by COVID-19. So it's kind of exciting that the Canby gets to, participate in kind of a charitable contribution to some of our nonprofits. Likewise, we're going to look into the adult center. We're going to look into some places where we might be able to pass on some CARES dollars and then get reimbursed for it. And then we're also trying to, Stickle was looking into some programs that have already been set up by local towns like Newburgh and Wilsonville, where they've actually been able to give some grants to some businesses that were struggling because of COVID-19. So expect that we're going to try to come up with something, if we can, by next meeting, so that potentially we can help some folks out there when, we have to have a scoring system, and some folks have been helped by other means. But what we're going to try to do is be responsible stewards of this money, but hopefully be able to hand some of it out for some of the needy businesses and some of the nonprofits that are helping folks who have been hurt by this. So I think that's pretty exciting news. And that's really the last item I have. So I'm not sure if you guys have any questions about that.
Joe, thanks for those updates. I appreciate that. And can food banks be looked at in terms of some of those CARES funds as well? I mean, I know
I believe
we've got a couple of food banks that are not, the Canby Center, but some are affiliated with churches and whatnot here in Canby. But does that qualify, or does that become a piece as well?
I believe as long as we can kind of articulate that the use of the funds be for, COVID impacts, negative COVID impacts, then I believe we can try to make that work.
Yeah. And then I'm going to bring up the quiet zone and the arch. Do we need to separate those two now?
Well,
Does the arch get done sooner if we separate it now?
the arch currently, from my notes before, it had part of it was trying to get the footing done. I think blending the program together or the projects together, and whether or not it made sense to do the footing separate. But I know we had allocated in our budget for, I believe it was 2016, or excuse me, 216,900, I think was the number, right around 2017 or 217,000 for that arch. And it came in higher than that. So if we were to do that, I think we would have to locate a little bit more money in the short run if we tried to barrel through that. It's doable. And I remember, clearly we have the plan sitting there for it. And what I could do is go to our engineer and ask them if that particular project, if there was some value engineering that was done because of the approach of doing the footing differently, given that we were going to rip up some of those intersections. And the other thing is whether or not they thought that some of the interest was from the construction outfits was because it was more than just a quiet zone, it was an arch as well. And whether or not they were going to try to package it like that. So if you guys want me to pursue at least finding out if those seem to have a lot of weight in terms of doing these together versus doing them separately, I'm more than happy to do that.
Councilor Parker?
Mayor, I would suggest that this might be one that we turn over to Scott. Both of these contracts, whenever they're let, are going to be during his tenure and he'll be administering them. So if we're going to ask him to make the dinner, we should let him buy the groceries.
Okay. Councilor Spoon?
I can get behind passing this on to Scott, but since Scott is here, I'm going to take the opportunity to say that both projects are important, and there's been some concern that one gets lost in the way of the other. So, from my perspective, whatever it takes to get both projects done, but if they need to be separated, I understand that. But the goal is to get both projects done. I'm okay passing this on to Scott. Joe, when you say the arch is a little bit over budget, how much little bit are we talking about?
I believe that some of the prices that we were seeing coming down from Canby X, because they were the only ones who were bidding on it, looked like it was like 80% over or something. So it was a couple 100,000 over. And I think we invited them to please revisit that number. And they were starting to come down on it a bit. So I don't have my notes right here in front of me from that night that we spoke about it on September 2nd, but my memory of it was still probably 150,000 over the 217 that you currently have sitting there.
Yeah.
Is there a sense, just from my understanding, that there's a cost benefit to doing them together, or was it just a logistical benefit of doing them together?
Well, and that's what I would have asked the engineer specifically. I believe logistical benefits do have cost benefits,
Sure.
but they're not huge, probably. I think because the footing has to be separate, really, frankly, from the rest of it. The danger is if you made the arch first, then you could damage it when you're ripping everything up around it. Was my understanding of it.
Okay. Well, I think that this will be a good project for Scott to dig his teeth. Surprise, you get this. This is coming right at you, but I think that I'm going to speak only for myself, but I'm excited to see both projects get done, and it's important to me that they're both done. So Enjoy, Scott. I'm excited to see how you handle it. And I know that that there are opportunities maybe we haven't looked at, or it's kind of been passed on through a number of people now, but it'll be a good project for the community. So
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Joe? Okay, Joe, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Next on the agenda is a second opportunity for citizen input. Melissa, anything come through or?
No, Mayor, but I'd like to remind everyone that the November 3rd election is coming up, and we do have a ballot box in front of the civic offices that you can use. Also, if you're planning on mailing your ballot, you should do that before October 27th. So if it's after October 27th, drop it off. We have a drop box here at civic offices. They do anticipate that it'll be very busy, so sooner is better.
don't we also have one at Arneson Gardens behind Fred Meyer?
Right. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So there's 2 boxes for
There are
people.
two. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. Then we'll go into action review. Melissa,
You have approved the minutes of October 7th, 2020.
great. Busy night for us. And it only took us an hour to get here. All right. We are not exactly adjourning as much as I need a motion to go into exec session.
Mr. Mayor, I move we go into exec session pursuant to ORS 192-660, parent 2, parent E, real estate.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Council President Dale, and then seconded by Councilor Spoon to go into executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Councilor Parker?
Aye.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? All right. We are in executive session. I'll read my